Kingpyn Boxing is taking place tomorrow, and what a journey it was to get to this point. From looking like the company was bankrupt and this event was going to get cancelled in just a week advance, to DAZN stepping in and bailing Kingpyn out and saving this event. The Kingpyn semi-finals high stakes tournament still taking place tomorrow night in Dublin. I was actually meant to be going, but unfortunately I'm not able to make it anymore. I'm hoping that I can make the finals though, because the potential finals is very exciting. The potential final matchups we're going to get are very exciting to hear about. But anyway, this card tomorrow, we have 10 fights, including 4 from the winners bracket, 2 from the losers bracket, and 4 wildcard fights. So let's start off with some of these wildcard fights. There are a couple fights here that I really am not familiar with the fighters whatsoever and don't have too much care for them. I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I just know nothing about either guy. We have Ben Williams versus Black Paddy. These two guys seem to be island guys, like local guys. Ben Williams appears to be like a fitness influencer, and Black Paddy appears to be a comedy like influencer, Instagrammer account. So I'm gonna go for Ben Williams just on the basis that from the looks of it he seems to be a lot more physically in shape, and if he's got the fitness advantage in a first time fight, then I feel like that can help him get the win. The other fight we have is Dollar Deck versus Golden Boys. So I'm not sure what Dollar Deck does, that is a mouthful to say, but it appears as though he has had a fight before. He fought on the Mayweather Aaron Chalmers card, just having a quick scroll through his Instagram here, and Golden Boys appears to be the guy that storms the ring in the Wasabi Deji fight. So that's okay, pretty full circle. So I'm guessing he's just been matched up against him as some sort of punishment or something. I don't really know. But if this Dollar Deck guy has fought before, then I'm going to go ahead and predict him to win this match. We then have Kian Cowley versus Connor Tierney. I believe this is an MMA fighter versus a bare knuckle fighter in a boxing match. I'm going to go for Kian Cowley purely because he has the home country advantage as he is Irish, so I'm just going to go for him on that basis alone. We have Kiefer Crosby versus Aaron Chalmers. Kiefer Crosby is an MMA fighter, Aaron Chalmers also an ex-MMA fighter, also from Geordie Shore, and recently fought Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match that you probably didn't know even happened. They had a very intense face-to-face where Kiefer Crosby made it very clear that he is going to punish Aaron Chalmers, and to be honest, I believed every single word he said, so I'm going to believe that Kiefer Crosby is going to win this fight, and that is my prediction for this one. Moving on to the 2 loser brackets fights, there were meant to be 4 loser brackets fights, but however there are none on the men's side because Austin McBroom, Tom Zanetti, my mate Nate, and Philippek all just aren't part of the tournament anymore seemingly, which leaves us with only 2 women's fights in the losers bracket, so credit to the women for all following through and continuing the tournament. Daniella Helmsley versus Miss Danielka is one of these fights that is taking place. I'm predicting Miss Danielka to win this fight. Daniella Helmsley shown a fair bit of improvement on her pad work and the training videos we're seeing, but in her last fight with Jully Poca, it was very clear that she was out of her depth, whereas Miss Danielka looked a lot more composed and arguably won her fight against Elle Brooke, so I'm going for Miss Danielka. The other fight we have on here is Whitney Johns versus Amber O'Donnell. I think this is going to be a very one-sided fight with Whitney Johns taking away the win here. Whitney Johns is another fitness influencer, so she immediately has that fitness and cardio and gas tank advantage. She had a great performance against Barbie despite taking the loss and proved herself to be a warrior, took a lot of hits in that fight, whereas Amber had a very bare bones basic match with Emily Brooke, which could have been really scored either way, and I think Whitney's probably got this one in the bag. Unlucky Amber. Anyway, moving on to the winners bracket, the main fights on the card, the 4 big fights taking place, the semi-finals. Let's start off with the first women's contest, which is Barbie versus Emily Brooke. At the first Kingpyn high stakes event, Barbie without a doubt looked like the best of the women's fighters. Emily Brooke came in on pretty short notice, was doing her first fight, has only trained for 6 weeks in total, I've heard, and I think for that reason, just based on experience alone and how Barbie looked compared to how Emily Brooke looked in the last fights for each of them, I think Barbie is going to win this fight here and advance to the finals in the women's bracket. But who's she going to face? Is it going to be Jully Poca versus Elle Brooke? It's one of these two that she is going to be faced, so that's the next match to talk about here, and this one is a really tough one to call. Elle Brooke has the experience edge. She's a 3-0 fighter. She's had 3 fights. However, she even said herself that her performance against Miss Danielka kind of disappointed her and it wasn't what she was going for. And Jully Poca, on the other hand, had a good debut against Daniella Helmsley. However, Daniella was clearly not much of a tough opponent for Jully to get past, and I think Elle probably would have made just as easy work had she been facing Daniella as well. I'm gonna go for Elle Brooke to win this one. I think this one goes to the judges. She's probably someone who would probably maybe get the edges from the judges. It seemed that way when she fought Danielka. She often comes into range, likes to fire a lot, stays active. This one's a very tough one to call, but I'm gonna go for Elle Brooke, and it's gonna be her versus Barbie in the final. The co-main event, AnEsonGib versus Jarvis. This fight at first I thought was going to be a very one-sided victory for Gib, but as we've got closer and closer to the fight, this is going to be a close fight, I think. This is a really tough one to call. Ultimately, I'm still going to go with my Gib prediction. I think whenever people count Gib out and people start to ask questions about his opponents, be like, oh, I think they could surprise him here, Gib still goes out and wins anyway. And I really think there is a chance that Jarvis could go and take this. He looked very impressive in his Tom Zanetti fight, looked very technically sound, and if anything that we hear is to be believed that he is living in the Mayweather gym, then Jarvis is going to be coming into this fight looking pretty sharp. But bell to bell, AnEsonGib is a completely different beast from start to finish of the fight, and I think AnEsonGib is going to take away this one, whether it be by KO, decision, or whatever. I think Gib has this still. And in the main event, in what is a really, really tough fight to call, probably the most difficult prediction, is King Kenny of the Beta Squad versus Whindersson Nunes. Whindersson Nunes and Kenny both have a fair bit of experience. Whindersson Nunes has even fought a Brazilian pro boxer, going every round with him to a draw. King Kenny, though, on the other hand, has been very active, particularly in the last year alone. He's fought Sensei, he's fought Ashley Raksu, he's fought DK Money, he's had my mate Nate, he's had 4 fights alone in the last year, and even before that, of course, had the fight with FaZe Temper. So recency bias may be in effect here, and it's really tough to call because when you compare their last fights, I think King Kenny and Whindersson Nunes, no matter who they were facing, if King Kenny was against, say, Philippek, and Whindersson Nunes was against my mate Nate, if they swapped opponents, they would have still had the same performances each, in my opinion, which makes it really tough to call. However, my ultimate prediction is that the final of the Kingpyn Men's High Stakes Tournament will be AnEsonGib versus King Kenny. I think this is going to be a close fight, but I think King Kenny knows how to take a fight to decision and win on decision, and for that reason I think he can take this fight home against Whindersson Nunes. It's just so tough to call, but ultimately I'm calling it here: King Kenny versus AnEsonGib for the men's final, and Elle Brooke versus Barbie for the women's final. Those are some good stacked finals matchups. Oh my days. That's going to do it from me on this video on the Crossover channel, guys. Make sure you tune in to Kingpyn Boxing on DAZN tomorrow. If you subscribe to DAZN, you're getting the whole month of this, Misfits, the Joshua fight, and the Jake Paul fight. I'm not even sponsored or being paid by DAZN. I'm just straight up shilling for them. You may as well do it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this event tomorrow, and I'll definitely have a video breaking down every single fight. Well, maybe not every single fight, but we'll see. And I'll see you all soon for a future video. Goodbye, guys.